The Steelers battle the heat and their own teammates at St. Vincent College this week. Preseason games are on the horizon, and some key position battles are starting to work themselves out. We have the latest from Latrobe as we inch closer to September. You are watching Steelers Training Camp All Access right here on KDKA TV.
Welcome to FedEx Steelers Training Camp All Access.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome inside the KDKA TV studios as we present Steelers Training Camp All Access. Bob Pompeani here, flanked by the quarterback of the program, Mr. Charlie Batch, as we're ready to go here. Pretty soon we got our first preseason game, but this week featured a lot of intense practices. However, at the end of the week, Mother Nature won. She never loses. The weather came. Last night affected practice, in fact, canceled the Friday Night Lights. So many people from all over were trying to get there. We're ready to go, but the weather just did not provide it. Today, the fields were kind of swampy, so they moved to the south side. They got their work in, which is a good thing for the Pittsburgh Steelers as they'll return to St. Vincent College on Monday. So, Charlie, let me ask you about this. How does it affect players, all this shifting around?
Yeah, it was a little disappointing for players because they were excited to be out there on for Friday Night Lights. They were talking about this to the younger players who never experienced that. So to have them not being able to participate in it and obviously get a chance to meet the fans who came from all over to be a part of Friday Night Lights, it was disappointing for all around, but either way, Steelers tried to make the most of it.
They did, and it was a busy week from a signing standpoint. First, we saw Chris Boswell get a new contract, well-deserved, puts him right on top of that kicking mountain with Justin Tucker. And then we saw something that we didn't expect to see, and that is a signing of Deontay Johnson. Given all the numbers that we saw from other wide receivers, Rich Walsh was there all week. He covered the signing.
All right, thanks, Bob. Big week for Deontay Johnson, making headlines here at camp on Thursday, signing a 2-year extension worth more than $36 million, which guarantees he'll be in a Steelers uniform through at least the 2024 season.
You know, it was a relief for me, just be able to get it done, just to get back out there with my brothers. It's a blessing, so I'm happy.
Johnson was in his last year of his contract, which was worth $2.7 million, tack on 36, and he's looking at making more than $39 million over the next 3 years, and 27 of it is guaranteed, a deal that definitely worked for him.
Going through the whole process, not knowing what to expect, each and every day, so it was something different, but just how you go about it and how you carry yourself and not letting certain stuff get to you, because you can't take certain stuff personal.
Johnson consulted advisors, friends, and family and thought about it hard Wednesday night before signing the deal on Thursday.
Like I said, I was just trying to protect myself and making sure I got the right number I was looking for. And today, like I said, I prayed about it last night. I felt good.
Johnson has said all along he wanted to stay with the Steelers, even though he might have made more money hitting free agency next year.
You see the numbers, but I wasn't trying to look at everybody, pockets or whatnot, because they deserve it at the end of the day. I can't control what they got going on, so I'm just worried about what I got going on. And was able to come up with something, like I said. I'm happy that we was able to come to the table and get something done, and I'm looking forward to getting to work.
So not only is this good for Deontay Johnson, it's also good for the quarterback competition having the best receiver on the field. Back to you, Bob.
All right, Rich, it is big news, and they're all now signed, sealed, and delivered, and the quarterback should be happy about this. Are you surprised it came together this quickly, given all the numbers you'd heard?
Well, I think at this point, I was only surprised because when closer you get to the season, you understand the Steelers' philosophy. They do not negotiate once the regular season hits. So when you see all of the numbers that are happening around the league, there's two folds that happen here. One is the agent who's trying to get the most money that he possibly can, and then the player at some point has to say, you want to know what? How much can I sit back and absorb and say, I'm okay with this? And ultimately, you have to tell the agent, sign the deal. I'm fine. Let's get it done and don't worry about anything else. And you can tell by Deontay Johnson's smile, he is ecstatic about what happened in this signing. And hopefully, he'll be around here for many more years over as it relates to just the 2 years that he signed on the extension.
The nice thing about this, Charlie, is like both sides won.
Yes.
They got what they wanted, each of them, which is good news. Meantime, players got what they wanted this week as well. That would be pads breaking out. For the first week, we did not see that. This week, we did. A.J. Ross was there for when the pads started to pop.
Thanks, Bob. Cam Hayward summed up Monday's practice best, saying, "This is real football." It was the first time the team got together in pads. Very tough, very physical, very energized, and really set the tone for what's to come. Every inch is earned on the gridiron with a clash of strength, grit, and the will to win. Challenging each other in pads for the first time Monday, the Steelers got their first real glimpse and litmus test of this team's collective physicality and where they still need to improve. Especially in the trenches, guys along both the O and D line say going full speed in full gear raises the level of competition and accelerates chemistry.
Like for the offensive line, the technique is the same with or without pads. Just with pads, we can just go harder with it.
A physicality, you see who can take it, who can, embrace the physicality of it. Having good angles, run to the ball, and just get that wear and tear on your body.
Even though Monday's practice was in full pads, it was not full tackle. In Latrobe, I'm AJ Ross, KDKA Sports.
All right, AJ, thanks very much. Your quarterbacks, you guys never got touched. You didn't have to worry about that. What's it mean to bring the pads out for the rest of those guys?
Yeah, it was always good for the quarterbacks, but unfortunately, we don't get hit. But I think when you look at what's going on, you want to make sure it exposes some people. Or defensive backs, can they tackle? Running backs, can they block those linebackers? Because essentially, you're not doing that in the OTA practice. So it's really good to get a sense of who you're dealing with, what they can and cannot do, and really the coaches get excited about this because the players understand the tape doesn't lie and everybody has an opportunity to shine.
We have a lot more coming up, including the quarterbacks. Everyone's talking quarterbacks, but we'll also focus on the offensive line. When we come back, we'll go inside the trenches with two guys who are very experienced in doing that. It's next right here on Steelers Training Camp All Access.
Welcome back to Latrobe, Pennsylvania on the campus of St. Vincent College for training camp. The first time your Pittsburgh Steelers are back at their summer home since 2019.
Oh, lots of sights and sounds. Thanks to Steelers.com for all of that. And hey, listen, a lot of focus on a lot of positions. Everyone wants to talk about the skill position. That's fine. But guess what? You know the jumper cables of a car? It's often in football the offensive line. They get a lot of play. Right now we have two guys who are veterans of the trenches who are going to help us break it down. Craig Wolfley and Max Starks. Gentlemen.
Thanks, Pomp. Well, you know what? This past week, one of the things that I've seen that I really want to highlight is a young guy who's really stood out, Max. He's not even a starter, but J.C. Hassenauer has been consistent. He's been solid. He's been studly, and he's strong at the point of attack, doing the things he needs to do, snapping the ball and so forth. I really like what I've seen from J.C. Hassenauer thus far.
And for myself, I think I have to go to my position of expertise, tackles. I love what Chuks Okorafor is doing as far as becoming a better, complete offensive tackle, not only in the run game but in the pass game. Also, Dan Moore Jr. taking the step from first year to second year, really honing in on his stance where a lot of success can happen. And we know that if you're young, it's a little tough, but he's been consistent. He's had some great matchups against Alex Highsmith. Can't wait to see him put it in action against an opponent.
Well, the other thing we're looking forward to is game week. All right, Gadzooks, man, you love game week. You know, you're getting ready to go. And one of the things the Steelers have been working on is multiple tight end sets in camp. And I really look for them to be able to play with it a little bit. It gives Matt Canada something, to go out there and see what he can expand the roles of a Freiermuth, of a Zach Gentry, the 6'12". You got Kevin Rader. You got a lot of people there that you can mix and match in multiple tight end sets, give you that opportunity to be able to have a power running game, and also to be able to use them in mismatches in the passing game as well.
Yeah, I really like the way this tight end group is setting up. We got 5 really good guys, but the one guy I want to focus on is going to be Connor Hayward. I think the rookie coming from Michigan State is, a fullback by listed when he got drafted, but he's been working exclusively with the tight end unit. So you could see where you have some fullback, some H-back, and some tight end work, possibly in a wing position, a little bit of the misdirection. So I'd love to see what he's going to do, especially going up against that Seattle Seahawks defense.
Now, isn't that amazing? You and me talking tight ends, offensive line. Who'd have thunk it? Didn't see that coming. Back to you, Palm.
All right, guys. Yeah, you got to have those guys up front. So, Charlie, you've been down there. You've watched. It's essentially the same with 2 new additions, James Daniels and also Mason Cole. And those 2 guys are new, but the guys that are still there. How are they doing, and how do you see this offensive line progressing?
Yeah, it's been up and down throughout training camp, and because they're rotating in and out, they want to see a lot of different rotations just to see who's going to stick. But the one that I'm looking at is that left guard. When you look at Kevin Dotson, you're talking about Kendrick Green, who moved from center now to left guard. That position I think will go down to the final preseason game. But ultimately, you have to figure out who your five are going to be because you want to get that running game going. This offense is really plays off of play action, and for them to get going, they have to get that running game going. So the quicker they can get the offensive line going, then everything else falls into place.
Well, experience helps. Those two young guys on the tight end or on the tackle position both got it last year. That should help them. Meantime, offensive line and defensive line seem to always get together. You have skirmishes in training camp. One of the guys who's always there to take part is Cam Hayward. Gerry Dulac, our insider of the Post-Gazette, has more on him.
Thanks, Bob. You know, Cam Hayward, he's the ultimate team captain. He speaks his mind. He's not afraid to say what he thinks. We saw that happen with comments he made last week regarding what Ben Roethlisberger had to say. And I'll tell you what, he is the ultimate alpha dog on that practice field. I mean, we see it every year. He gets into some kind of tussle. He got into two the other day because he wants to let everybody know he's the boss out there. And if anybody in any form ever challenges it, you know, him with that, he takes care of it right then and there. There's no question the standout of training camp has been a rookie receiver, George Pickens, their number 2 draft pick. You know, they got this guy in the second round, and it was a steal because he spent most of last year, he was hurt. When he came out of the year before, he was viewed as maybe the number 1 receiver in the draft, and he's starting to show that on this practice field. One of the things that they wanted to see with him is kind of the knock against him is he wasn't a good route runner because he's the X-receiver. He's the guy who runs down the field. But he said the other day Randy Moss was the same way, and one of the things he wanted to do at training camp was show the coaches that he can run routes, and he has been a standout. Everybody's been impressed with George Pickens. Everybody's excited to see him once the regular season starts.
Very talented man. All right, Gerry, thanks very much. Quarterbacks love that. What about the quarterbacks? As we head into the first preseason game, coming up Saturday, KDKA, Seattle comes to town. You have Trubisky 1, Rudolph 2, then it's Pickett, then it's Oladukin, who's not done much. How do you see that all playing out in week 1 here?
Yeah, I think that rotation will stay the same as the preseason games start, but I think ultimately Mitch Trubisky, this guy, man, he looks like the game is slowing down for him. The offense, he's picking it up. Today was his best practice as he was going around throwing it around. So I'm excited about what he brings to the table. And I want to see him work with Chase Claypool. I want to see him work with Pat Freiermuth. Those guys have been not practicing because of injury. So it's going to be interesting to see how the offense moves. But ultimately, as the preseason game unfolds, I think Mason Rudolph will come in number 2, Kenny Pickett, and then ultimately the game will determine whether or not Chris gets an opportunity as the game moves forward.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. It all starts Saturday night. It's the first of 3 preseason games, and we have them all for you on KDKA. August 13th, Seattle. That's an unusual preseason cross-country opponent. You don't normally see that, but the Seahawks are here. And then we go to Jacksonville on the 20th, followed by the 28th, a Sunday afternoon at Acrisure Stadium against Detroit. When we come back, we will go into the running back department. What happens behind Najee Harris? We'll talk about it next right here. Steelers Training Camp All Access continues.
Welcome back to FedEx Steelers Training Camp All Access.
All right, welcome back as we continue right here with All Access. And you know the running back department is going to be Najee Harris. The question is, who's going to be his backup? And is there anyone in this backfield who can make a jump? Well, one guy who has so far has been an undrafted rookie, Jaylen Warren out of Oklahoma State. And boy, he has made the most of opportunities. There have been injuries to certain guys they brought in, so he has gotten more and more opportunities, opened some eyes of the coaching staff. And even though he wasn't highly regarded coming out of high school and into college, he's made the most of his opportunities.
I guess it's just always been my thing. I've never been the fastest, coming out of high school, I wasn't really highly recruited because, my top end speed wasn't the greatest. So I guess that's always been one thing to stick with me is just my cuts.
All right, keep an eye out on him on Saturday night. You'll get a chance to see him play. As far as injuries are concerned, there are guys who've been out a lot here in this camp so far. I know there's still basically a month before the start of the regular season, but Najee Harris injured his foot. That's opened up some playing time and opportunities for guys like Warren. Chase Claypool got back. Pat Freiermuth had a hamstring. We haven't seen Ogunjobi or Alualu yet, or Wallace, Minka's back after this. Is this alarming at all early in camp to see this many guys not partaking in practice?
Yeah, this is the time of camp that you start to see these injuries start to kind of creep up. Of course, veteran guys, they start looking at that, milking a practice or two if they can get off. But the closer you get to the game, now you're 7 days away from the game, you're going to see those guys get back on the field. Some are potentially fighting for roster spots, but ultimately this is the time where you see those guys starting to come back.
All right. And as we take you inside the numbers brought to you by St. Vincent College, you're going to see some interesting numbers regarding Najee Harris because he has been the man. And all you have to do is look at this breakdown. This is on the roster, guys who touched the ball last year, and that includes Jeremy McNichols, who's not on the active list right now. He is on IR, but that was with Tennessee. So essentially it's Najee and everybody else. Benny Snell should be the guy. McFarland only had 3 touches, and now you add Warren to the mix. They brought in Master Teague this week. So Najee Harris has said all along he wants some help maybe. Then he said, no, I like covering the ball as much as I can. What do you see happening there?
Yeah, they're going to have to give Harris a break at some point, but who is that next back coming in, and can he be as productive as Harris is? So when you look at Jalen Warren, yes, he's getting the opportunity. He gets excited, so people want to see him. That will transition to the game. But when you look at Anthony McFarland, here's a guy now who has to make that jump if he's looking to leapfrog Benny Snell. So it's going to be really interesting because you know Najee probably won't get many carries in the preseason. Those 3 guys will now have that opportunity to prove that they can now come in and spill Najee if the opportunity presents itself.
I think that's the great thing about preseason. You never know. You get an opportunity. Undrafted camp stories are also nice to see. We have one for you coming up. A guy who went to Bethel Park and once looked like that. Now he looks like this. What has he done? And does he have a shot to make the roster? It's a local story. We'll talk about it next right here on Training Camp All Access, KDKA TV.
Welcome back to FedEx Steelers Training Camp All Access.
Welcome back. You know the great thing about training camp, you're going to see stories. Camp darlings, they call them, guys who've gone from undrafted to an opportunity, and they made the most of it. Guys like Willie Parker, Mike Hilton comes to mind, Ramon Foster, all undrafted, and they turned out a pretty good career. There is a local kid from Bethel Park to Duquesne University. He's hoping he can be one of them as a Pittsburgh Steeler. This week's Allegheny Health Network KDKA Extra Effort Award winner. Let's hear it for Jake Dixon. I met Jake Dixon in 2015 at Bethel Park High School. He was a winner of my Extra Effort Award back then. This was him then. This is him now.
I was about 190-pound tight end. Yeah.
Now what, 300?
305-pound offensive lineman.
So if I remember correctly also, not just the 4.0 average, because that's a big part of this, but also you were playing volleyball, not football. So how did you get here from there?
Yeah, so I went to Lewis University out of high school. Very quickly found that wasn't for me. Just wasn't happy, with the overall experience. Ended up transferring to Duquesne in the spring of 2017. Played tight end there for 3 years. Moved over to offensive tackle during that shortened COVID season we had. Played that season, and then my 6th year season, and then ended up working out and getting this opportunity. So
it's a badge of honor to be from Duquesne and make it to the NFL. I know your buddy Christian did the same thing. So, I mean, among you guys, that's got to be something very special.
Yeah, it's really cool. Especially being, making it to the NFL, but being on the Pittsburgh Steelers. That, practice. You can see it from the bluff. It's just very, very rewarding and super special for him and I to be able to accomplish that.
So, you'll likely get an opportunity at Acrisure Stadium, the very first game. I would imagine you might get in there. What's that going to be like for you?
It's going to be surreal. Going to Steeler games my whole life, being in that stadium with that atmosphere, those fans, it's going to be surreal. But as soon as you get inside those lines, it's football, and you have a job to do.
Yeah, how about that? You got to root for stories like that. That kid has come a long way, just like you. You know what it's like to be a hometown kid making it the way you did. What's it going to be like for him to step on the stadium for the first time?
As a kid, you dream of putting that uniform on. And for me, I looked in the mirror a long time when I'm putting the uniform on for the first time. It was only the preseason game. He's going to be a very similar situation as he goes out there. He's going to have to tame the excitement, understanding that the family is out there. But one thing I will caution him on, tickets this week will cost you a lot more than what you're earning in your paycheck, because the whole family is going to want to be there and support you because they know it's a dream come true for you. So as he gets that opportunity, man, it's going to be exciting. I'm rooting for him because he has an opportunity to showcase that he can now provide and prove that he can help this run game.
Right, especially in the offensive line. There are openings there if he makes his case. We'll see, and you'll see it coming up Saturday night. We have some final thoughts on tonight's show coming up as we get set for the first preseason game Saturday night from Acrisure Stadium. Don't go away. We're coming right back. All right, welcome back. And before we let you go, just a reminder, 2 weeks in, 2 more to go. Mark your calendars. Starting this week, every practice is at 1:55 in the afternoon, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th this week. And then, of course, 15, 16, 17, the last day will be on the 18th. We have our first preseason game coming up on the 13th this Saturday against Seattle. So, Charlie, your observations for the first couple of weeks, and I realize things are going to change when you get into a game situation.
Yeah, training camp practice has been up and down, but I think what I get excited about is when I'm out and about, people are asking me, how do I feel about this team? To be honest with you, I don't know, but I'm excited about the unknown, and we're all going to figure this out together. New names on this roster, and of course, the post-Ben Roethlisberger era. So everything right now is all on the line, and it'll all play itself out as these preseason continue throughout the month of August.
Yeah, first time in Mike Tomlin's tenure, he has to worry about a quarterback not named Ben Roethlisberger. Right. So that will all play out. Our first game against this Saturday, it's at 7 o'clock, KDKA TV, as Seattle comes to town. And reminder to you, we'll be live up at camp pretty much all week. So tune in to KDKA News at 5, 6, 10, 11, and the Sports Call on CW. And that's going to do it for us. Thank you for joining us. Training camp continues in Latrobe. The weather should be better than it's been the last couple of days, hopefully. We'll see you there, and we'll see you on KDKA. Good night.